Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, the UKV, the GFS-GN, ECMWF and the ensembles as we are coming into a very cold start to winter. Now we have alluded to over the last few videos that we're going to be going into quite a prolonged cold spell, but the one thing we have remained very uncertain on is the severity and the winteriness of this cold spell. Whether it would just be chilly below average air coming in from the north or the east, or something a little bit more sinister, a little bit more severe, with widespread snowfall, harsh frosts, ice days, things like that. And in the latest runs, it does look likely that we will see some severe cold for at least a time. Now, all three main models today are producing bitterly cold northeasterly winds, getting the -5 isotherm all the way through the country, the -10 isotherm flirting with Scotland, which is incredibly difficult this time of year with the North Sea still really mild. 20-degree temperature contrast with the -10 isotherm to 10-degree sea surface temperatures. That means there will be a lot of convection, a lot of wintry showers around, and as we'll see on some of the runs as well, there is the possibility of milder air trying to bump up from the south. And some of the runs yesterday had the milder air winning, but today they all have the milder air just across northern France, which could produce some heavy snowfall somewhere in the southern half of the British Isles. So we've got some real severe weather potentially coming up here on these latest runs, so we'll go through them, have a look what they're showing, and even today on the GFS we'll actually have a look at the precipitation charts. Again, long range stuff, but just see what sort of precipitation we could be seeing with this sort of very cold northeasterly wind setup. So, do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see there is no winteriness in sight, really, for the UK at the moment. A bit of rain across northern Scotland, and that's getting moved around the higher pressure, which is building in, and probably start to bring easterly winds around mid-afternoon. Tomorrow, wind chill and showers. Now, I've put on the 2-metre temperatures today. You'll be able to see it's cold, but not really that cold. You know, we see blues down the central spine, so sort of mid-single digits, some yellows either side along the east coast, and the Republic of Ireland, where we have a bit more mixing of air, and that is where temperatures are getting up to maybe 8 to 10 degrees. But these blues and lighter blues, indicating mid to low single digits, will become more widespread if we look out to our east towards Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Poland, Germany and Belarus, where our air is generally going to be coming from over the course of the next few days. It is really cold, but not bitterly cold. None of these pinks that are still well out to our east. So we're going to be dragging in freezing air off the Atlantic, but it will get moderated by the North Sea. That's why we're looking at sort of mid-single digit highs over the course of the next 5 days, and winteriness potentially over the higher ground. Now, if we do run over to the UKV and see what that is showing in terms of precipitation and temperature over the course of the next 5 days. Now, of course, we are now into December, so we're into meteorological winter, and yeah, we're going to be going real cold. So if we do run through, you can see the precipitation spiraling down the high pressure at the moment in the north, and eventually it should sort of peter away through tomorrow, and we start to see that easterly breeze coming. You can see those showers down in the east coast towards East Anglia and southeast England, moving from east to west inland, and then you can see by Friday afternoon into Saturday more of those showers pushing in and becoming more numerous in those, and they could be wintry for some, but most likely only over the higher ground. As we progress through, you can see some more wintriness over the higher ground in northern England, Wales and Scotland. Again, could be some isolated heavy snow showers within that, but again, they should mostly be sort of moderate showers. And then as we head into Monday, you could see some more widespread snow potentially inland, maybe over moderate hills into Monday, and by Tuesday those showers continue piling in, but still most of them are rain. Now you can see that 850 HP temperature are sort of conducive of snow, but we're not seeing that because of the direction where it's coming from. It's coming from a generally mild continent compared to what we can see in a month or two's time. And you can see the dew points are slightly above freezing, which means that wintry precipitation is very hard to to come by. You need those dew points below freezing to get anything wintry at all. So dew points too high, probably because of the North Sea moderating the surface conditions. So that means it's cold, chilly, miserable, cloudy, rainy, but not quite cold enough for anything wintry as well. And as we see on the 2 metre temperatures, we can have a very small diurnal range because the cloud is going to trap any warmth we have at the surface, which means in the day it might be 5 degrees, at night it might only be 2 or 3. There's not going to be many areas dropping below freezing, apart from areas that escape the clouds really. So for this afternoon, we see widely temperatures 5 to 7 degrees, maybe 8 to 10 degrees in a few spots, so a chilly day. As we head through tonight, some areas dropping towards freezing towards the west, escaping the cloud, and by tomorrow afternoon, we see those temperatures rising once again, maybe 5 to 7 degrees, maybe the isolated 8, but it's a downwards trend, and by early hours of Saturday, again in the north and west, maybe a frost, further eastwards, 4 or 5 degrees, very little diurnal range, and as I said, it's because the cloud traps any of the warmth towards the surface, and by Saturday afternoon, look at that, 5 to 7 degrees. Feel like temperature will be more like 1 or 2, really quite chilly indeed. And overnight into Sunday, you can see again frost for the western half. Even the southern England, we could see a frost there, but it's really only where we escape the cloud. And by Sunday afternoon, look at that, 4 or 5 degrees quite widely, really chilly indeed. And the feel like temperature will probably feel more like freezing. As we head into Monday, a frost once again in the north and west. For central and eastern areas, about 4 or 5 degrees, hardly dropping much below what it was at midday or the middle of the afternoon. And that is, as again, because of the cloud. And you can see by Monday afternoon, hardly risen at all, 4, 5, maybe the isolated 6. And you can see by Tuesday, slightly milder air trying to push in from the southeast. But give that another day or two, as we'll see on the GFS, GM and ECMWF, bitterly cold air will be flooding in from the northeast. So, if we do now go over to the GFS and see what that is showing over the course of the next 2 weeks or so. Now, as I said, all the runs today are showing some really quite severe cold, and the GFS is one of those, of course. So you can see the high pressure has built to our north, and we are starting pulling that cold air. You can see pretty decent cold pull, but nothing too severe. But the high pressure retrogresses up towards Greenland, and we thought from some of the runs over the last few days that this low across Iberia could push up from the south, bringing slightly milder air. But the block winds out, and low pressure to our northeast winds out, and look at that, bitterly cold northeasterly winds push in, and look at that, lobe of polar vortex shoves into Scandinavia and just fuels all the wintriness towards the UK. The jet stream miles to our south, and look how bitterly cold that is. Now, I said in the longer range we could see low pressure running off the Atlantic, and look at that, it skirts the south of the cold air, and that would be a channel low and would give huge amounts of snowfall for southern England, or at least wherever the dividing line is between the milder air to our south and the bitterly cold air to our north. And this just goes into sustained, blocked, bitterly cold pattern. In 384 hours, the -10 ice firm is engulfing most of northern England. Absolutely bitterly cold. And if we do run through it, you can see pretty much most of this run, most of the British Isles is under the -5 isotherm. So an extremely cold run from the GFS today. Look at that, -5 pushing in initially, milder air trying to push up from the south for a time, and that's why Tuesday, Wednesday could be slightly milder in southern England. But look at the bitterly cold air arriving once again, -10 isotherm trying to flirt with us from day 7 to day 10, and then eventually we just stay in the really cold air, and by this time, yeah, the upper air temperatures are nothing ridiculous. They're sort of -7, -8 degrees, but it's because they're sustained that the whole of the atmosphere is cold, below freezing, and that means that towards the surface we will be freezer-like most likely. And you can see the low pressure bumping into it, the dividing line across southern England, and it's where we meet that sort of 0 degree isotherm. That's where we'll see huge amounts of snowfall for central and southern England before bitterly cold air arrives back in from the north. So GFS really quite extreme today, and again you can see on the potential equivalent temperatures, you can see bitterly cold and the temperature deviation bitterly cold as well. Now, if you do have a look at the precipitation for the UK, this is the precipitation type from that GFS run, and we'll only go from sort of day 7, and you can see snowfall pushing in from the northeast, again snow falling widely inland, and it's those northeast coasts that we're going to see the heaviest snowfall. and as we run through, just continued bouts of precipitation, and eventually we just see, look at that, just so much white around, loads of snowfall, even pushing inland at times, and then watch this low come up from the south. Significant snow across the southern coast. Again, this is particularly very low resolution in the longer term, but heavy snow in the south, and we would be dumping a lot of precipitation there over the course of the next couple of weeks, and most of that precipitation would be falling as snow. So yeah, very interesting from the GFS today, and the biggest thing from it is it's backed up by the GEM and the ECMWF. So if we do look at the GEM run, you can see easterly winds pushing in at the moment, turning much colder. The higher pressure moving up towards Greenland. Eventually we do try and pull in milder air from the south, but look at that. Lobe of tropospheric polar vortex runs in, bitterly cold air shoved from our northeast, and it's sustained because there's higher pressure. It's sat towards northeast Canada and Greenland, and you can see another flood of bitterly cold air is most likely heading towards Scandinavia and probably the UK. And you can see that at this point the UK is under bitterly cold air, low pressure influence as well. Ever since probably next or Tuesday, Wednesday time, we're in bitterly cold air all the way to day 10, so a good 5 to 7 days there of really cold conditions, and there would be a lot of snow associated with that. Again, look at the temperature deviations, look at all of that cold air towards Europe, northwest Europe, bitterly cold. So yeah, the first 10 days of December look to be not only well below average, but there could be a period from around the 5th to maybe sort of the 10th to 15th where we are truly bitterly cold, something we haven't seen in December in a number of years. And of course, December 2010 does come to mind. Of course, December 2010 saw these sort of patterns for a whole month, starting at the end of November, all the way towards the Christmas period. So we'd have to see this for a few weeks to be getting that sort of level, but this is the same sort of severity in terms of individual events. So we'll have to see exactly how it does play out, but another bitterly cold run from the GEM today. And if we compare it to the ECMWF, you'll be able to see that we are starting to put in easterly winds at the moment. Cold air comes initially before we try to push up milder air before we go into a bitterly cold northeasterly wind. Now, the blocking is slightly differently positioned, so the coldest air actually goes to our west. But we're still under the -5 isotherm, as you can see. And this actually could fuel a lot more precipitation, but it could mean snow is more to the north and over higher ground and a little bit more marginal in the south. Now, again, it will depend on individual events, so we'll have to see. But you can see that it is still very cold, still very blocked, and most of those runs, as we saw from the GFS and GM, have that northeasterly. The ECMWF just has it slightly positioned, slightly orientated differently. So we'll have to see exactly how it does play out. It's only a subtle shift and just cuts off that colder air slightly more and pushes it slightly further westwards. But it still is bitterly cold and cold enough to produce widespread winteriness and colder conditions. Now, if you go over to the ensembles, look at the London ensembles and the 6 o'clock run, you can see it is really cold. Going colder this weekend, then a brief bump in milder air from the middle of next week, sort of Tuesday, Wednesday time, and then getting down to the -5 isotherm, or the majority are below that for the next few weeks. We still got some milder outliers that we also always have to have a look at, but the majority are very cold towards that -5 area. Maybe a brief spike towards that 17th of December point in the longer term, and it's a little bit more pronounced on the ECMWF, as we'll see in a minute. So perhaps signs of slightly milder air in the longer term, but the amount of times that the day sort of 15 forecast has been wrong, I wouldn't really look into those with too much detail. The 2 metre dew points, you'll be able to see, are going to be absolutely frigid. Look at that, down towards freezing from later next week. The dew points are freezing, and that's where most precipitation would be falling as snow, especially as the surface conditions cool down as well. And again, these are not high-resolution ensembles, so the high-resolution models may have the ensemble members even colder than that. And look at the 2 metre temperatures. There's a bit of a step change. So next Wednesday, Thursday time, from 5-6 degree highs all the way down to sort of 1, 2, 3 degree highs. And again, the average here is 4 degrees. That's being offset by a couple 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 degree temperatures. Most are in that 0 to sort of 3 degree range. Really cold indeed. And the new snow depth spikes starting to appear more frequent here. But of course, we need to get this into the sort of the 5-day time frame before we take this seriously. And if we do finish by having a look at the ECMWF, very similar, very cold all the way to sort of the 13th of December down towards the -5 line. Quite a bit of consistency with that, but more of a spike in upper air temperatures towards sort of the 15th of December. Quite a few more going very mild, and the average of summer numbers returns more towards the 1981-2010 mean, but still majority are towards very cold areas. So we'll have to see exactly how it does play out, but for the time being we need to concentrate on the next 7 to 10 days where it does look very cold, very blocked, and potentially very snowy. So do keep an eye on the forecast. Of course, I'll keep you updated here, and of course keep an eye on the Met Office warnings. I'm sure there will be many warnings issued over the course of the next 2 weeks or so. But yeah, it does look likely we're going to go into a prolonged cold spell. But not only that, we could be seeing some very bitterly cold weather in there. Ice days look likely, especially in the north, but not exclusively. Widespread snowfall is looking ever increasing in likelihood. Every single one we really see now, and this morning I think it's very, very likely now we do see widespread snowfall for a time at least. But whether we see any big settling snow, whether it's any severe snowfall with just a few flakes, a few showers, we'll just have to see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. December starting on a very cold note, so make sure you do stay safe out there, as those temperatures will be plummeting over the course of the next 5 days. And I'll see you again for another video soon.